Well, folks, I'm Ellie Little, and this is your weekly TA Wrap, where we take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective. Looking for trend, looking for supply and demand on the charts. Do this show once a week, every Sunday night, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of the gorgeous Rocky Mountains. Glad you could join me. If you have questions for me tonight, you can email me, support@tatoday.com, or you can text me at 303-912-9110. So you can shoot me there, or you can hit me here, or of course you can pop into the note window and tag me in the email question. Either any of those ways work. Last week we had a nice push up again. These markets, if you remember the week before last, we actually had a little retrace. Well, last week they got it all back. You saw what you wanted to see, and that the strength was in the Russell, S&Ps, and the NASDAQ coming in next, and then of course the Dow. So overall, it's been a good push higher. We've got all the markets up about 2% total for the year, and from that perspective, you gotta kind of like what you see here. If we move over and take a look at the markets themselves, S&Ps, Friday was quadruple witching, so we had a lot of volume come in at the end of the day on the expiration of those quad contracts, and that put volume into everything. S&Ps on a daily hit new highs, on a weekly hit new highs, volume expanding a bit as a result of that. And so we've had a nice push up as a result of the continued buying that has taken place, especially in the S&P 500. New highs, volume. You can't argue with that picture, I guess is the best way to say it. If we go over to the Russell on a daily basis, also you see that expansion of the volume. Russell's trying to get into, on a daily basis, that 1189 and a quarter number up to about 1193, 1194. That's really the number. Over here on the weekly, it's 1196.70. You get up and over that, folks, it's new highs, and this thing's going to try to climb even more. Remember, it was only about 4 short weeks ago we were looking at the potential for a break of multiple swing points. 5 weeks later, we're trying to break out the tops. NDX has been the leader on the way up. We had the S&P strong all along. The NDX was the one that really got rolling back at the end, or I should say about the 3rd week of May. That was the one that pushed us, got us going. Eventually the NASDAQ composite and the Russell came in to the mix too. This one's hanging at the highs. You've had essentially 11 bars of consolidations at the highs now. And so that consolidation, is really what you want at this point, because you had huge moves in Apple, huge moves in the stocks. Those have to work it off, and what has to happen is others have to come in and start pushing themselves. Here's the break over that swing point high. Suspect hasn't gotten back in to do a retest regen. Ideally, you'd like to see it hang up here and extend a little bit more and not even come back in. And if we go to the composite, which is the broadest of the NASDAQ, volume, of course, big on Friday. That swing point high, 43.4674. It gets over it, comes back into it on the very next bar, so it's already essentially done a retest regen immediately. Very next bar. A lot of times when that happens, you'll see it continue to hover around there. This had came back and did a retest regen, as many of the sectors did, and as the Russell did, retested and has now regenerated higher. This one's made a higher high, so has the Russell. That is what it means to regenerate. So if you take the width of that bar, that's the retest regenerate zone. If you come back into it, which it did, and you hold and you break back over whatever that prior high was before you came back, that is a regeneration. And in this particular case, it sets up another ABCD structure to the top side, which is a nested one, because you've also got a larger one that's set up inside of that. And so you've got nested ABCD structures trying to take you higher in the NASDAQ. So technically, looking at the indexes themselves, there's really not much not to like. I mean, you really couldn't ask for much more. And lastly, if we look at the Dow Jones goes up and tests that high, 16,970.17, got to 16,978, closes at 947. So it closes underneath it, got over it, but of course, huge volume as a result of the quadruple witching, and volume on the weekly as well as it pushes up farther and farther. And again, there's really nothing not to like about the way this is behaving. So the 16,588.25, yeah, this one hasn't done a retest regen either. So this one on a weekly basis is 4 bars into a move higher. Remember, 6 bars is kind of the critical number. So you've got 4 bars, and I'm going to check that one more time, but I don't believe it's touched into it. 588.25. Yeah, hasn't touched into it. So 1, 2, 3, 4 bars. If you get 6 before you come back into retest regen, it gives you pretty good odds that you're going to hold it. And right now, this one's setting up that way. So index-wise, looks pretty good. If you go over and look at the sectors, there's a little bit of wear and tear starting to happen in these sectors. In particular, some of these that have ran so far so fast are in that state. The SOX is one of them. The SOX finished off an ABCD structure on the upside on the 18th. 86.73 was the high there. There is a bullish ABCD structure still in place here on the SOX on the weekly. That one measures up about another 3 points. And so volume comes in on Friday. This thing can stretch a little bit more and actually finish that off. So getting a little worn, but still pushing higher. XLE, this one also pushing higher, had a huge push on this. I mean, this is just a straight up since we came off those lows in May. Hasn't given anything back. Daily looks the same. ABCD structures on the weekly and the daily both now have finished off. So you would think this thing tries to take a break. I think the most important thing that's been pushing this of late has been the concern of the Iraqi situation, and oil prices traveling higher has been putting a good bid underneath this market. Oil prices, if we go look at those, and we will in a second, you'll see they're pressing against the highs on the dailies, on the weeklies, trying to break over it, and that's going to kind of be the key number this week. Weakest sector out there, consumer discretionary. This one had regenerated, or at least attempted at low. Yeah, it was into the low, so it was a full retest. And so when I'm talking about retest here again, take this prior swing point high, you draw it across, take a look at it, test into the full retest of that low, holds, pushes up, now it's back in there retesting again. The first time back, odds, if you come back within 6 bars, odds are about a coin flip. Second time back, they're a little worse than a coin flip. Third time back, almost guaranteed to break. So this one is the only one that's kind of on the ropes. That's the XLY. That is the weakest one. But you've got rotation taking place at the same time. Here's the XLV. XLV comes back in, does a retest regen off that high. And that was all it gave on the retest, and now regenerates, breaks over the highs, and that does what? Sets up an ABCD structure to the top side. So you got an ABCD structure now in place on the healthcare sector, and that's a good thing because you need that rotation to start taking place, and it takes place in the sense that you break over multiple swing points on multiple time frames, which also suggests that this thing could try to push even higher. So that's the sort of rotation you want. XLU, same thing. If you look at it on the weekly, it's pushing those highs, pushing them with pretty good volume. On the daily, actually got over it. Now it's back into it. Volume shrinking. That looks like it's going to try to work higher, at least test higher again. XLP, let me grab the XLP here. XLP does the same thing, gets over the top, back underneath it. If you look at it here on the weekly, also volume looking pretty good. So, you know, on the and the last one we should probably look at is the XLF. XLF also pressing up against the highs. This one did a retest and regenerated as well. Prior swing point high was back here, so we came back into that area, test into it, and although it hasn't totally done the regenerate yet, it's hanging up there looking as if it's going to do a little nested ABCD structure to try to actually get higher and break over that, which then of course would put into play a much larger ABCD structure. So rotation looks pretty good. If I look at those auxiliary markets, in particular the oil market itself, you can see oil is still pressing up against the highs. Here it is on Friday, pressing up there, and if you pull it back on a weekly, it's coming into those highs, 39.46. It's traded at 39.32, so it's right at them. You got to think it's going to test them this week, and that's going to be a key place. Is can this thing push up again and get over them or not? I kind of doubt it, and the only reason I doubt it is because you have ABCD structures that are just about done, and as they complete, it makes it harder to keep going, and that measures right to that area. So looks to me like you're going to get some sort of pullback over that. Maybe it sets up another one that makes the new highs, or maybe that's all it gets. But the oil sector still doing pretty well, not looking terrible in any way, and might potentially get higher over time. TLT. TLT is really just range trading right now. TLT had a very nice move to the upside, but on a weekly basis, you know, it's in that range trade here on the daily. On the weekly basis, it looks to me like it's trying to pull back in and finally do the retest, regenerate off that prior high. That high was here, so you would expect it to try to get back in there and test it. Now, it has been more than 6 bars, so that says it's a pretty good probability it is going to regenerate higher once it tests back into this area. So assuming it gets back in there, you could expect another push, you know, to higher prices potentially off of that. It does have a big bar it's playing with on the way down though, so you know it may take 2 or 3 tries to get over it. If we look, the other big news last week, of course, was in the precious metals. I talked about these Wednesday night, said that gold looked ready to pop higher. Boy, pop did it do. Pops over 3 swing points. It's drifted back into them, but it more importantly, consequent of the large move up, it broke over those retest regen zones, and clearly now is suggesting that it wants to trade higher. The first area that one should look at it if you're trying to get into it now is back into this little zone here, which is the overlap of the 2 prior swing point lows highs. That would be the area, and that also gives you a retest regen off of these swing points. Now it's going to be, because of the huge move, it's going to be a little sloppy probably on the way down, but I could see how this test into these 2 areas, and that's probably going to be the buy on gold. And I say it's not going to give you a lot on the downside, maybe enough to get you down into that second swing point, because silver itself has been extremely strong, and silver has pushed up, and it has actually gone over under after an extended move. To me, that's a 2-bar reversal, should suggest a comeback. Here's the gold coming into a full retest regen off the prior swing point low. That combined with what I just showed you on silver also suggests this thing's going to try to come back in some, but I don't think it's going to come in a lot. What else we got elsewhere? EEM. So the EEM has been pushing up. This is the emerging markets. They pushed up, tested, faded back in, consolidating up here. So you kind of got a little consolidation range starting to take form at these highs. The prior swing point was tested, swing point high, the retest regen was tested. Now it's trying to get back into it. This would be the second time, which would make it a coin flip. So we'll have to see how it behaves. But right now, they've had a nice push. And if you look overseas, other than China, most of the overseas markets still look pretty strong. So it's hard to be bearish in almost any quarter that you look at, any direction you look. Everything's fairly strong and fairly robust. Okay, let's see here. If I get any questions, let me check the text right quick, the email, see if anything's happening. And I don't see anything there. Let me see about emails. Nothing happening there and nothing in here. So let's turn our attention to what's coming up versus what has happened. Technically, market's in strong shape. Where's the risk? The risk is really that oil prices really start to shoot up as a result of potential geopolitical problems in Iraq, most likely in Iraq. That could put a crimp in this market. This week you got a lot of data, and it's in a quarter. So it's going to be hard to sell this market off into that kind of a situation. And then add to that, within the next 10 days, you're going to have second quarter earnings start to show up. And last week I talked about some of the earnings numbers that had came out, and most of these were pretty strong. Intel, one of them, says it's going to have better earnings, pops up there, 6 days, doesn't give anything up. Adobe comes out, good earnings, what's it do? Pops up there, doesn't give anything up. What was the other one? FedEx. FedEx gives good numbers. What does it do? Pops up, doesn't give anything up. So all those that are doing that so far have held. The one bad one was Oracle on Friday. It'd be curious to see how Oracle trades. Does it start grinding its way back higher because of a generally strong market, or does it continue to sell off? The other one that's probably in trouble is Amazon. And Amazon has struggled for a while. I don't think it's going to go anywhere before earnings, but it's not. Doesn't look like it's going to contribute. Now we talked about, the big ones over in the NASDAQ. Apple's been one of them. Apple's had a nice, big, strong run up, and Apple on a weekly basis, looks pretty good. It's fading away a little bit here, but on low volume compared to what it went up with. It hasn't done a retest regen off that high, so it could come all the way back. That would be a pretty big decline. But given the way the volumes look, it doesn't look like it's going to get back that far. Maybe 88, 89 to somewhere around 88 to 89. It's trading at 91 right now. So, it could get a couple points down, but probably doesn't give you much more than that. And that sets up the potential for an ABCD structure on the upside. And if you go back to the daily now, coming back into this area, if it got as low as that, it's not going to get that deep. That's 89. I don't think it's going to get that deep. That's the 89 number there that we were just talking about. So somewhere in this area, that's probably as much. Oh, and there is from a bar that's already gone off the chart. That would probably be the bar you're looking at. That would be a retest regen off this high. The high that demarcated this, which we can't see on the charts right now. That high, you could go to the trading cube and see what it is, but that high low is back in that 88 area. That's probably the area I would be looking for an Apple buy. But Apple, as long as it can hang up here and doesn't give it all up, that can be a positive. Microsoft still a positive. Google actually trying to be a positive as it works back higher. So you have a lot of potential here in the big three to keep the index up here. As that rotation keeps happening, you can see how that could drive things higher. So you've got almost everything in a good situation. You've got some extended sectors. The index itself has been a little extended, but it's consolidated 9 bars now. You've got rotation that's been taking place. You got end of quarter markups. and you have, you know, the performance anxiety that goes with it, and you have the earnings that are coming up not that far away. And so far, 3 of the 4 big numbers have all been to the upside. So it's hard to be bearish in this market. All right, well, I think I'm going to leave it at that. I've probably told you all I can tell you. I'll make it an early show tonight and catch up with you tomorrow. As always, I appreciate you being there. Tell a friend, tell two. I'm LA. This is, and it was, your weekly TA wrap. I hope you had a great weekend. Have a great night. I'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.